Hello, in this video, I'll show you how to design this banner in Photoshop. I have already included the project files for this lesson in the resources folder, so download and work along with me. I will be showing you how to crop these images and also show you how to remove the background of images. I have also included the font I use for this project, which is Open Sans and Comforter. You should install them by right-clicking and choosing Install, so that you work along with me. Hello, in this video, we will be looking at how to create our new document for our project. Alright, so to create a new document, you go to File, New. This is the new document dialog box. I'm going to name mine Banner. And make sure at this section, you have the measurement set to pixels and the width is 1239. And height to 746, and always make sure the resolution is set to 72 because it's a screen-based design, and the color mode also make sure it's set to RGB 8-bit and click OK. Alright, in the next video we will be looking at adding our text. Hello, in this video we will be looking at adding our text to our design. Before you start any project, I recommend you spend time to type the text you will be using. Alright, to add our text, you will have to copy it. And because I want this to be on their independent layers, I will copy them one at a time. So, I will copy the iPad and Fitbit giveaway by pressing Ctrl or Command C. And in Photoshop, you have to select the type tool. And the font we will be using for that is Open Sans. So, I will set the font as Open Sans extra bold and the size here. I will leave it to 24 for the meantime. Press Ctrl or Command V to paste. And now my font color is white. So, to change the color of the font, you have to press Ctrl or Command A to select all the fonts, then double click here to bring out the color picker dialog box. And I will press the check mark to accept modification. Before I move the text layer, I have to select the move tool and move it here. Now this text is too small. I will have to increase the size of this text. To do that, I will select the type tool and increase the font by coming to the size area and setting it to 72. Alright, select the move tool and next let's copy the visit mid-pass health boot. Copy all this text with Ctrl or Command C. Then select the type tool. But looking at our final design, I can see that the font is different. This is Open Sans and that is Comforter. So before we paste this font in, we have to change the fonts to Comforter. Anytime you are changing the font, you have to make sure the current font layer is not active in the layers panel. Otherwise, if you make an attempt changing it, it's going to change the font of the type layer currently active at the time. I'm going to deselect the layer by clicking here. I will change the fonts to Comforter Light. The font size is 30. Now, with the type tool, I will just drag to draw an area type. The font size is 30. Now, with the type tool, I will just drag to draw an area type. Then press Ctrl V to paste. Again, it has come in as a caps lock. So, I'm going to press Ctrl A to select all and bring out the character panel. Then you have to make sure you don't have caps lock turned on. I'm going to reduce the font size to 24 and the vertical spacing tool. I will make sure it's 30, then set the tracking to 0. I will press the check mark to accept changes. In the next video, we will be looking at creating our shapes. Hello, in this video, we will be looking at adding emphasis to the boot number. So, I will control or command click visit mid-pass health and put it here. Then, control or command click on the boot number to place that here. In the tools panel, make sure you select the shape tool, then right click on your mouse to see these options. Select the rounded rectangle tool, and with that selected, I'm going to draw a rounded rectangle like this. After drawing, you will see a pop-up dialog box. This allows us to change the properties of the rounded rectangle. But now I want us to focus on the rounded corners because we want it to be completely rounded. To do that, we enter a higher value like 100, then press enter. That's going to round it up for us. Let's hide it by clicking here to hide it. Then let's change the color of our rounded rectangle by double clicking here. Then choose a yellow color. Locate the swatches panel. If you don't see it, come to Windows, search for swatches. That should bring out the swatches panel. Then you click on it. Alright. So next, we have to select the move tool and position this here. Bring the boot number in front and change the color by double clicking here. This will activate the type tool. You double click here in the tools panel. Choose a black text. The color code is 0000. Then click OK. Let's choose comforter. We have to make this bold by holding the control or command key, then clicking on it. I can position it here in the middle. I feel this font is too small now, so I'm going to make it 20. Control or command click on it and hold the shift key too. Then click on the boot number. Now I have both type layers selected. I can select the type tool and make the size 20. Then press enter. Now it's already selected, so to deselect it, we have to hold the control or command key, then click outside to deselect. Hold the control or command key again, then click on it to activate it. Bring it here. Alright, so let me show you one final thing. We are going to add a drop shadow to make it pop. To add a drop shadow to this text, make sure you have selected it in the layers panel and come to effects. And this is the layer style dialog box. The first thing to check is to make sure it's active. Then click here to bring out the color picker dialog box. We can set the color of the drop shadow here. We want a darker color. Do that just by dragging it any point here. Click OK. Set the size to 2, the distance to 1. Click OK. You can see the impact of the effect by turning on and off the visibility of the drop shadow. If you think it's not helping, you can hide it. In the next video, you will be looking at creating the middle part of our project. Hello, in this video, we will look at how to add this rectangle shape to our design and some few other things. I'm going to sample this color. Press I to select the eyedropper tool. Then sample this color. In our document in progress, select the rectangle tool, then draw a rectangle to this point. Afterwards, you have to select the move tool, then show transform control in the tools control panel. Then make it fit. Hide this property pop-up and use the handles to make it fit the document size. Now, this shape is hiding our text. So you have to bring it under the text layer. The layers panel works based on hierarchy. So you have to make sure the shape is beneath all the top layers so we can see all the text layers. Alright, so in this section, I want to show you how to change the color of a text. To do that, you have to select the text layer and hold the shift key, then select this layer. Select the type tool with the text layer selected. In the tools control panel, click here to sample a white color. Alright, so in this section, we have to make the tone of the N silent. To do that, select the type tool and click inside the text. Highlight the N and set it to light. It's time to format the visit made pass health boot. We want to lay emphasis on the boot number. Now, how do we do that? We have to select this text, and to select that, I assume you don't have auto select checked, because if you have auto select checked, you can just click on it and select it. But one disadvantage of having it checked is that you can't select multiple layers like that. So I always advise my students to uncheck auto select. Then if you want to select anything, you hold the control or command key. That temporarily activates the auto select command. Then you click on the layer to select it. So now control or command click the visit made plus health boot to select that layer, and you select the type tool in the tools panel, drag around the boot number, control or command X to cut, then you accept changes. So what we are going to do is pasting the boot number on an independent layer. Make sure you have the type tool selected and click inside here to create a new layer. You see that I have a new layer here. Ctrl V to paste and accept changes. So you can see here that I have it on its own layer. Select the move tool and bring it here. At this point, we have to separate this layer to gain control. So to separate the visit made pass health, we have to select the type tool and highlight it. Ctrl X to cut, and the same way we have to paste it by selecting the type tool, click inside to create a point and press Ctrl V to paste. Click this to accept changes. In the next video, we will be looking at adding emphasis to the boot number. Okay, so in this section, it's time to bring in my images. So looking at the project first, the first image is the iPad, and I'll just open the image in Photoshop, drag it and bring it on the top here. If I place it here, it's going to put it on top. I just want to create a new document with that. And I have to remove the background of this, and to remove the background to make it transparent, I can either use the key selection tool, but that is not going to really help me, so I'm going to use the pen tool. So I'll press the P key to activate the pen tool. And I said every tool has a tools control panel, so set it to parts, not shape. And I'm going to zoom in with Control Plus, and by holding the space bar key, I temporarily activate the hand tool, which I can pan around. So with the pen tool, I'm just going to click and make a path around it. So that is how the pen tool works. You just click, you don't have to just click to make a path around it. I'll press Ctrl or Z. So this is how the pen tool works. You click to make a path around it. But if you want to make a curved path, you click and you hold the mouse. Click and hold to make a path, and you can move the mouse forward and upwards. At this moment, I'm using a graphic tablet, so my experience will be different from yours. So just, if you want to make a curve, you click in. Alright, so I'll just press the delete key to delete everything. And I'm going to start making a path around it by clicking in this. At this point, I'll want to curve, so I'll click and I'll hold to make a curve, hold and I'll drag to make a curve, and at some point I have to zoom in. Well, so just by clicking and dragging, if I reach a curve point, I just drag. And you have to sometimes delete these anchor handles, because if you don't delete it and you want to bring it here, sometimes it sets the direction of the next part. So by holding the Alt key, you can delete the anchor handles, and that enables you to continue creating your parts. Click and you drag. And I want to delete the anchor handles. If I don't delete it and I want to create another part, look at what it does. It creates the direction. So I'll hold the Alt key, then I'll delete it. Click. Alright, so I'll press Ctrl 0 to make the document fit the canvas size. Then after selecting the pen tool, you have to look here in the tools control panel and click the selection. You can feather the radius, but at this point it's not necessary. Just click OK. And what you can do now is we have to activate the refine edge command, which will enable us to refine the edges. But before we do that, you have to select any selection tool, either the marquee tool or the quick selection tool. So with the marquee tool, that will activate the refine edge. And now what I can see is that my Photoshop has, instead of selecting this, it has selected the background. If I click, it's going to remove. So I have to go back and I have to come to select inverse, and I'll have to refine the edge. Alright, so at this section, the refine edge dialog box, the view mode, my view mode is set to transparent layer, and the radius I've set it to 1.4. the edges, all these things you can play with it, but always make sure the decontaminate colors is checked, and the output mode is set to new layer. You have to remember settings checked, and you click OK. Alright, so just select the move tool and you can move this there, but I'm not going to move it there yet. I'll just hide it and I'm going to turn it back on, and I have to select this one too. So with the pen tool, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so once I have my selection complete, I'll click selection, click OK, select the marquee tool. Alright, I made a mistake. I'll go back. Okay, once I have my selection done, I'll make sure you still have the pen tool selected. You click selection, you click OK. That will make a selection of the iPad, but again I have selected the inverse, so I have to go to select inverse to instead select the iPad and select any of the selection tools that should activate the refine edge, and I'm going to use that to refine the edges. Alright, so now I can delete this by dragging this into the dustbin. I can turn this on. I have this tool now on a transparent layer. I'll press Ctrl 1 to get a 100% view of the iPad and select both with the shift click, and I'll bring both here. Alright, Hello, in this video, I'll show you how to create this section. The goal of this course is to show you how to use Photoshop. So whilst you follow this project, you will be able to know one or two tricks that you can use in your personal workflow. Just watch and learn tricks you can use when you want to design. So in this section, I'm going to create a rectangle by selecting in the tools panel the rectangle tool, and always make sure you look here in the control panel. Make sure that this is set to shape and that is set to fill. Every tool here has a control. So anytime you select a tool, look in the control panel and see if there is something you have to adjust. Sometimes there are some people who forget to turn off their stroke whenever they draw a shape. That shape comes with a stroke. This can be frustrating sometimes. So make sure stroke is turned off. If you want to go back, press Ctrl or Command Z. And if you want to go back multiple times, you press Ctrl Alt Z or Command Option Z. Alright, select the rectangle tool and make sure that the stroke is set to none. And if you click on it, it's going to bring out the Create Rectangle dialog box. Cancel it and just draw a rectangle by dragging your mouse. I've drawn a rectangle, and again, the layers panel works based on hierarchy. So I will hide this and bring it down. Change the color of this to a lighter shade, and this is the color range, and this is the slider. So you can drag the slider, then click OK. Bring the color here. I'm going to draw another rectangle, but to prevent me drawing another rectangle, I will just hold the Alt or Option key whilst I have this rectangle selected. Then I'll drag to duplicate this rectangle. Then show transform control. Drag this to this point and press enter to accept modification. I'm going to change the color of this tool, but minimize it to become small, because I want that to be small. Select this in the layers panel, then maximize it. Press enter to accept modification. Alright, so it's time to bring in the images. Hello, it's time to bring in the pictures of the Fitbit. I'll do this the same way I brought the iPad image. Just put it on the tab here to create a new document. I'm going to remove the background of this. Photoshop selects based on contrast, so with this we can use the quick selection tool to do the selection. But instead of selecting the main subject, we are going to select the background, which is white. That will be easier for us, so let's see how that helps. Now the quick selection tool works like a brush, so anytime you select the quick selection tool, you have to use the right bracket key to increase the brush size and the left bracket key to decrease the brush size. Alright, so I'm going to use that to do the selection, which does that perfectly for me. And I will use the left bracket key to decrease the brush size, then select the middle. So what I have to do now is to inverse the selection. Go to select inverse and click on refine edge to remove the background. I have these settings already saved. That is why you have to check remember settings. Click OK. Alright, I can bring this to our active document. It's too big, so I'm going to resize it. And before you resize any object, make sure you convert it into smart object. That is going to protect the image from pixelation. And to convert an image into smart object, you have to right click the layer in the layers panel, then choose convert to smart object. Now make sure you have show transform control checked in the tools control panel, then hold the shift key. Never resize an image from this size, otherwise it's going to distort the image. Resize it from the corners. Hold the shift key, then resize it. You can add the alt to it. That will make it a little bit faster for you because it's going to resize it from both edges. I'm going to bring the back to same way I did the front. And with the back, let's try the quick selection tool and see. I'm going to use the quick selection tool to select. At this point, I will lower the brush size with the left bracket key, and now it has selected some parts that I don't want selected. How do I deselect those parts? You hold the Alt or Option key. This turns it into minus. If I hold the Alt or Option key, let's look here in the Tools Control panel. It selects the minus brush. That means I'm deselecting that from the selection. So what I recommend is that the best way to go for some of these images is the pen tool. But because of time, I will use the quick selection tool to do that. Now that I have this selected, just go to select inverse to select the actual fit bit and click refine edge. The selection of this was not very perfect, but I'm just doing this to show you how to use the quick selection tool. And afterwards, I have my settings checked. This works for me. I will select the move tool, then I'll bring it into our active document. Again, I'll convert it into smart object by right clicking and choosing convert to smart object. Hold the shift key and resize from this size. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is simple. Control or command click this and bring it here. Minimize it with my hands on the shift key. I want to flip this horizontally. I'll press Ctrl or Command T to activate the transform control. Then right click to show these options. I'll flip this horizontal. Yeah, I want it this way. Looking at our final design, that is how we want this to look. This comes this way and Control click this to bring it in that way. Alright, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to add lightings to the background and a little bit of visual interest to our design. Hello, in this video, we are going to look at how to add lightings to our background. Looking at our final design, you can see the blink lights that add some visual interest to our design and some lightings to our background here. To do that, in the project files, I'm going to install the brush by double clicking on it. And that opens it up in Photoshop. To see it, you have to select the brush tool by pressing the B key, or just come to the tools panel, then select the brush tool. So this is the brush we just installed. You can select any one of these and just try them. Alright, I said the brush works like a circle, so you have to use the left bracket key to increase the brush size and the left bracket key to decrease the brush size. And also make sure the foreground color is set to white. I'll press the D key to reset the foreground color. Then press X to switch the foreground and the background color. Make sure in the Tools Control panel, the opacity of the brush is controlled. That is to make sure that the lighting is not too much. Make sure you create a new layer, then you name it. I'll bring it on top of all these layers. Click here. I'm going to click here and I'm going to click here too. Alright, so I can lower the opacity of this layer if it's too much. Then again, I'm going to apply another lighting to it, but this time it's a different form of lighting that will bring the focus to the middle, but before I do that, I will have to select the image in the middle and group them. To do that, I'll press Ctrl or Command click this one, then add the Shift key to it to select this. With my hands on the Shift key, I'll be clicking on these to select all of these layers. Then I'll press Ctrl G to group. I can rename these layers. We can center them by pressing Ctrl A to select the canvas, then center them. Press Ctrl or Command D to deselect. I have just realized because I have moved it, I have to position the brush well. So I have to select the brush layer in the layers panel. Then I will position it where it's supposed to be. I have also noticed that the alignment is not right. So I will just drag the rulers by clicking on it and dragging it here. Then Ctrl or Command click this to make sure it's aligned. Hello, in this video, I want to show you some quick tips that you can use to add lightings to your backgrounds. And to do that, I will select the rectangular marquee tool and drag to make a selection at the section where I want to lighten it up. Then right click on your mouse, then choose feather from these options. I'm going to feather the radius to 100. So that's going to make it rounded. Then we are going to add an adjustment layer. Click on the adjustment layer icon. These 4 adjustments, brightness and contrast, levels, curves, exposure, are all for lightening and darkening a photo. So what you're going to use is the levels adjustment layer, which if you drag to your left is going to lighten the background. If I turn the layer on and off, you will see the effects before and after. Sometimes you can select these. Sometimes you can select these and select the move tool. Show transform control. If you want to position the lighting, that is also allowed. I'm going to create a layer in the layers panel, and I'm going to use the brush tool by pressing the B key. Then select a soft round brush. Okay. So the brush is too big. What I'm going to do is to use this to minimize the brush size, and sometimes you have to click outside to hide the brush tool when you have it active. Then use the right bracket key to maximize the brush size. Then since I have white as my foreground color, I can lower the opacity and just click to add more lightings to it to kind of gives it more extra light. If I turn it on and off, you will see that the layers panel also have controls that you can always control the opacity of all these layers. Alright. So once you have this done, it's now time to add the text iPad. Select the type tool. Anytime you select a shape, then you have the type tool selected. Anytime you have a shape selected and you select the type tool, it's going to put the text in the shape, and sometimes you will not want that to happen. So you have to deselect that and type iPad. I have to lower the size of the font to 30 and the space in between them. I have to lower them as well. And I will change the font color. I think the whites will do. So change the font to regular, turn off show transform control, and hold the Alt key, drag, and that keeps the same properties. I don't have to change the fonts. I don't have to set the fonts and all those things again. All I have to do is to change it to Fitbit. In the next video, I'll show you how to create this custom shape. Alright, so in this video, I'll be showing you how to do this section, the wing custom shape here. Alright, so in the active project, select the shape tool, right click on them to show the shape tool to show the custom shape tool, and this is the custom shape. And in the tools control panel, you click on this G icon, you select all, click OK, yes, just select all, then you click OK. You can drag this to maximize the size, and the shape I used was this shape. This is the shape that I used. And anytime you are drawing a shape, hold the shift key and always make sure you don't have another shape selected. If I have this shape selected and I hold the shift key, you can see beside the move to I have plus, that means I'm adding to the shape. So make sure that you don't have any shape selected. To be on the safer side, select the text and hold the shift key and draw your custom shape. Select the move tool and let's change the color to yellow. I'll just sample this color here. Alright, okay, I feel the images has to go here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'll have to control click this and control click that and bring it here and control click this. Alright, I'll go back, control Z, select the images folder, show transform control, and I have to make sure that I have the lighting also select. And to do that, I'll uncheck show transform control and control click on the light. So that means I have all this selected. I will show transform control and I'll minimize it a little bit, position it to this side a little bit. Alright, once I have this shape selected, I can add a type which is going to be the wing, and again I have to deselect this by clicking on the sub headline group, click and type wing, change the font color, press Ctrl A to select all, double click here and change the font color to black. And the font I used here was Edward Script Pro. Edward Script Pro. This is the font I used here. And I'll increase the font size. Select the move tool and position it in the middle. Alright. So in the next video, I'll show you how to do this section. It's just as simple as just adding a text. At this section, it's left with a down text we are going to add. So I will just press Ctrl C to copy. To prevent me from formatting the text again, I will Ctrl click the Win iPad or Fitbit. Hold the Alt key, then drag it to this section. Then I will select the type tool, click inside, click this to accept modification. Then I can move this down a little bit. Alright, so looking at our final project, I place emphasis on this by making the color green and underlining it. So to do that, I think we should lower the font size to 24. Then select this and change the color to green. Then underline it with the character panel. I'm going to make the font size a little bit bigger by pressing here and pressing the up arrow key until it gets to a point I think it's okay. So I think this is the end of this project. I hope you've learned one or two tricks that you can apply in your own workflow. Again, my goal here is not just to make you do this, but to show you how you can apply some of these tricks in your own project that can help you enhance your workflow. Alright, so see you in the next project. Thank you.